Hi, this is Kylie Coo. Welcome to my studio. This is Wild Positivity for March, and the prompt is observe. So I started in my usual way by keeping out the cards from my positivity deck that related to the wild state of being. And there I'm just showing you a small stone that I found just a couple of days ago in my garden that is heart-shaped and I just really liked. So I also pulled some cards from my positivity deck, just the ones that kind of spoke to me: journey, connect, brave, create and community. As I say, those were the ones that I just felt called to today. And then I started my page. Now I decided that today I was going to use a lot of collage. Just flicking through my journal there, looking at my first two pages, and then I pulled out a number of collage pieces that kind of spoke to me. And I spent a few minutes just looking at these. I liked this particular one. I liked the fact that the woman on the left was kind of looking in the way that my first Wild Positivity page on adventure was, that she was kind of looking almost into the distance towards something. But I also liked the woman behind and the fact that that image was slightly more blurry. So I carefully cut out the first woman so that I would still be able to use the second if I wanted to, either in the same place or, as it turns out, in a different place. And then I just kind of played about with those and with other pieces of collage until I got them into a position that I thought I quite liked, although it does change as it goes along. Now, by observe, I was thinking that in part of this journey, this wild positivity journey, looking for kind of an authentic self, I think we need to observe ourselves and think about how we relate to our environment, how we relate to others, how we just act, and what kind of drives us, including in terms of our creativity. And I guess today I have actually learned a big lesson, although I think in some ways I was learning the lesson throughout this process of creating this page, but I learned it more afterwards when I actually went to sit down and edit this film. And the lesson I learned, well, here's the thing. As you'll come to see later on, I missed bits of the filming out. I was interrupted quite a lot today during this process, and with my positivity videos in particular, I really don't like to be interrupted because I kind of get into it. I want to be a part of it, and I don't want anything else distracting me. Now, in the past I have managed to kind of botch up my filming just because I've got so much into it, but today there was lots of interruptions. So the kind of lesson I learned is this. Well, one, I realised I wanted to lay the blame at the door of others, which is not good. Nobody tried to distract me. Nobody was contacting me other than for something good or interrupting me because there was a need. And yet when I realised that I'd botched up my filming, I kind of wanted to blame somebody else. So rather than accepting responsibility myself for not checking that I was filming properly, it was easier to say, it was their fault. And it wasn't their fault. If there was a fault, it was mine because I should have been checking better, especially because this has happened before. So, there we have it. So I guess that was the kind of main lesson from today, that, I need to accept responsibility for those kind of things. And I think my authentic self would just say, yeah, okay, it was me, can't blame anybody else, I should have checked. But the other lesson is, if I want to get so into something and I want this, I either need to say to people, don't interrupt me, or I need to create at a time when I know that I'm not going to be interrupted. Now, that's difficult because you never know when the phone's going to go or whatever. But there we have it. So obviously here I'm starting to stick down collage pieces, and later on in the process you will see that it jumps from bit to bit where there are big sections missed out, but I will try and explain to you what I did in between times. So, just gluing things down, trying to get those pieces into place. I did take an image of it so that I could refer back to it, but things did change. In fact, it changed quite significantly in the end, I guess. So, there are a lot of amazing collage artists out there, and I absolutely take my hat off to you, because the work that so many of you create is just, it's so amazing. I mean, I love everyone's art and craft that I see. You know, it blows me away when I see the work that people produce. It's just amazing. And collage, I think, is a particular talent, you know, in the same way that I guess mixed media is on its own, or oil painting or watercolour painting, you know, and I do think collage is a bit of a kind of separate thing. It's part and parcel of mixed media, but, you know, if somebody called themselves a watercolourist, then, you know, I think people would be entitled to call themselves a collage artist. And as I say, I see so many pieces out there. I'm kind of rambling a bit now, I realise that, but I see so many pieces out there. The way people pull images together is just totally amazing. So I guess this was partly my attempt to do something a little bit different, but mainly because these images really did just kind of speak to me today. So I liked this kind of, gosh, I can't remember the name of it, but without being disrespectful, it reminded me a little bit of a sandcastle, and there was something about setting it just on top of the dunes there. It just seemed to almost blend in so well, and I also wanted it to disguise where the part of that woman's face wasn't there because it had been obscured by the person that was there before. So I spent a lot of time just trying to get this right. It wasn't just a case of just kind of slapping it down. I was very much trying to create something very specific here. So just gently marking where I want to cut that piece so I can then try and make sure that I get it back in the right position. And just using the edge of a plastic card just to take off the pieces that I didn't want. So when I was putting this piece together, I had no idea at all how these pieces all related to each other. As I say, the woman that ends up going in the bottom left-hand corner, I guess reminded me a bit of that very first page adventure, because she was looking off into the distance. And I think where I place the two, she's almost looking off into the distance into this other woman. And I liked the fact that that other woman was kind of out of focus. The same with the piece in the top left-hand corner there. I took it from a magazine, and it was a picture that had obviously been taken at speed, so there's a blurriness to it, and I felt that in terms of observe, that was something that kind of connected in a sense that you don't always see things clearly. Everything's not always sharp or in focus, and there's a bit about just including that, although you'll see later on that piece actually changes as well, but it leads me to kind of create something else. So I am spending a lot of time on this piece, but I do want to get it right. And just in some instances taking off the kind of straight edge just to soften it a bit, and although I've left some hard edges on, they will be softened a bit later on in the process. And all I'm using is a glue stick today, and then I just smooth it out with that plastic card. Now I did like this piece, and I do spend quite a bit of time with that piece. I cut some of it out, I look at how I could incorporate it, but actually at the end of the day I didn't, because while I liked it a lot, it just didn't seem to go. Now where this page ends up, what does it have to do with observe? I don't know. I really don't. And I guess to a certain extent that's where I would call this intuitive art. Still is art with intention. I'm still trying to focus on positivity, but it's intuitive in the sense that I just pulled pieces of collage that kind of called to me. Although I'm taking my time and putting some pieces down, I am still working intuitively in terms of what I include, and also in terms of what I then kind of discard and don't include. And for me, I guess it's intuitive because I'm not trying to create something specific, and there are things in it that I don't quite understand, but that's fine. I don't need to understand everything. I just need to know that this is part of my wild positivity journey. And it was very much about observe. And I was thinking about, why was I including certain pieces? And I was also thinking about how do they connect to each other. And I think that alone was sufficient as part of observe for me. Just observing how I was as I went through my process. So I think that last bit was on double speed, and I'm just going to speed this bit up even more. And what I've decided now is that I need to start to fill in that white bit in the middle. I just wasn't sure what it was I was trying to do here, and just felt that before I glued her into place, I needed to just kind of put some paint down, try and start to bring some of these pieces together. So I actually take some black paint. I wanted to introduce a bit more black to it. And then I introduce some blue, that's just a pale blue, and periwinkle, just to start to blend that into that little bit of sky with the lightning in it. And I just felt that if there was a bit more colour on the page, I didn't want to add in any more big pieces of collage, because I just felt it was going to become too... I didn't have a piece that fitted, I guess, and just to add anything in, it wouldn't have felt connected somehow, even although I didn't know what the connections were that I was trying to get to. So I'm just trying to start to blend the various pieces together. Just using a paintbrush, but also a little bit of a cosmetic sponge. Not sure how I'm going to blend in the kind of castle and the sand dunes yet, but I know I will find a way somehow. So Adding more black. Of course, the paint's going on some slightly glossy paper, so it really takes 2 or 3 goes to get that to where I want it to. So I then think I'm going to try and extend the sand dunes out a bit, and just using an orange, thinking about how I can extend that off and into the distance. Still working intuitively, picking up some of the darker shades there, looking at her. And then at this point I think I just need to get her down, because until she's down I can't really decide where I'm going to go next. I hadn't put her down to begin with, because I thought there might be something that I would want to go underneath the picture, still underneath the edges of it, but I was just feeling that until she was in place I didn't know where I was going to next. I couldn't feel my way forward. At this point I decide this needs to be black, and so I start to paint the black in. So of course this takes a little bit of time because it's kind of fiddly going around her. I'm then looking at that top left hand piece, and I actually think, although that had been trees, as I say, in an image that was showing speed, it reminded me a bit of clouds. So from there I started to use some white. The black's still slightly damp, so it does change it to a grey, and start to try and give more of a kind of cloud effect. I'm really seeing that as my way of starting to blend everything together. I feel reluctant at this stage to cover up the lightning, because I feel that it needs to be there, but I also use the clouds to start to blend in the sand dunes. I'm just adding more black there. And again, more white to create the cloud effect. And I'm taking that right around the woman in the top right, and I do also take it over onto the woman in the bottom left. Still looking at those little pieces that I'd cut out, just in case they might fit in, but no. Liked that bit because it had the bubbles as well, but again, no, it's just not fitting. So from here on it will jump in stages. So I'm just cutting the edges, neatening it up, and you'll see there that I've taken a white paint pen and a black paint pen, and I have started to add some detail. I've gone round the fan, I've gone round both women, and just adding in black and white at this stage. And here, as well as my head, you will see me actually colouring in the fan, and I actually end up making that black and white. Don't ask me why I went down this kind of route, I just felt that this needed something, and I was happy to get this black down in this bottom left hand corner. I felt that it needed the black there just to kind of balance it out a bit. And I just continue on with that. I had been going to make it all white, but then do it as black and white alternately. And later on I actually add another little bit of black down in the bottom right of the fan, just so that I can write my word in. So just doing a little bit more of the detail here. I had coloured in the flowers just with some gel pens because they didn't look right. Did a little bit of detailing on her eyebrows, and I also extended the lightning out, and I also put in a few little kind of symbol type doodles and some gold onto the castle. So yes, big lesson learned for this week. Sorry I missed so much of the filming, but I hope you can see the journey that I took with this. So as always, I thank you for watching, and see you next time.